Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 6th of August, Sunday, so I hope you have a great weekend. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time. I'm Gutierrez and this is my first update for the day, in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second update will be a little bit late on my Patreon page, in which I will share additional news that will be reported by Russian media, and because it's a Sunday and time for informal talks, that's the name of program. Of course, I will summarize previous week, how it went for our project, and I will share some ideas that I have to improve channels, to improve my channels and make much more interesting content. So hopefully Patreon community will find the update interesting. And by the way, Patreon page is one of the major lifelines for project, and I will be immensely grateful if you will consider to join Patreon and support this channel this way. You will see link under this video in description box or in the pinned comment. That's been said, let's talk about news now, and I will start with the main news for this moment, which is massive drone and missile strike that was conducted by Russian armed forces during the previous night on military and logistical infrastructure of Zelensky's regime. I did share information on my Telegram about this strike, and well, I will read it to you if I may. So according to a number of sources, last night, the Russian armed forces launched massive drone and missile strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of Zelensky's regime in the following regions: Kyiv, Vinnytsia, Zhytomyr, Khmelnytsky, Rovno, Zaporozhye, Kherson, Sumy, Kharkov, Cherkasy, Ivano-Frankivsk, Ternopil, Lvov. So as you can see, geography of strikes are truly large, on large scale. And this morning, some channels did report that explosions were heard in the Dnipropetrovsk region also, even though Russian Defense Ministry for now didn't share any information about targets of last night's strikes. But according to some reports on independent sources, main direction of Russian strike was military airfields of Zelensky's regime, from which Su-24 frontline bombers are taking off, that are modernized to launch British and French cruise missiles, Storm Shadow and Scalp, if I'm not mistaken, that's the name of French cruise missile. They are basically almost similar missiles. Of course, during the day, Russian Defense Ministry will probably share with us additional information, and I will post about it on my Telegram. And by the way, Ukrainian side did make statement about last night's strikes, and Ukrainian officials claimed that they did manage to shut down 13 Russian cruise missiles X-101 or 555, 17 Caliber cruise missiles, and 27 Gerань strike drones. But yet again, me personally, I don't trust even single word from Kyiv regime. So it's up to you if you will take these numbers or statements from Zelensky's regime as something that can be trusted. Of course, some percentage of missiles and drones probably were shut down, but 20-30% maximum, not 90 or 100% that usually Kyiv does claims. So that's been said, let me share with you now a quick summary of the situation on the front line. It's still operational pause all along the front, from Kherson region to Kupiansk region. Initiative is in Russian hands, even on this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia, in Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front. And these directions, by the way, are main axis of Ukrainian so-called counteroffensive. So they are losing initiative even in these sectors of the front. When it comes to Donetsk region, when it comes to Bakhmut sector, Seversk, Liman or Kupiansk, initiative is totally in Russian hands. And for example, yesterday we did have reports that Russian forces did manage to establish control over this settlement, Novoselovskaya here. It's interesting that statements about this settlement, we did hear previously also that this settlement was become under control of Russian forces, but probably there was some Ukrainian counteroffensive and they managed to establish control over this settlement. But yesterday we once again did see reports that this settlement is taken by Russian forces. So it's operational pause. And by the way, even though there are some significant local scale skirmishes or fierce battles between the sides, especially in the direction of Marinka and Krasnogorovka, but overall it's a deadlock. And if you are interested in detailed information about these local scale clashes, as I always do, I recommend Military Summary channel. I do recommend Alexander Mercury's channel, host of the Duran channel. They do detailed analysis of situation on the front line on daily basis and provide much more information than on me. So, because after all, my channel is about news in general, not just about military conflict. So let me continue now. And RIA Novosti is reporting that this morning Russian air defense systems did manage to shut down 2 Ukrainian drones in Bryansk region, and the governor of this region did spoke about it and said that no casualties on the ground as a result of destruction of these drones and no damage to infrastructure was done. Next news is also from RIA Novosti, which is about exactly that settlement Novoselovskaya in northern part of LPR, Lugansk People's Republic. As I just mentioned minutes ago, this settlement became under Russian control, and I believe it's this information once again proves that initiative in the central and northern sectors of the front is totally in Russian hands, and probably we would not be mistaken if we will say that Ukrainian forces lost initiative even in Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front on this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. Despite all the attempts of Ukrainian forces to establish control over the Rabotino or to somehow breach first line of defense of Russian forces, all the attempts, all the local scale offensives, counteroffensives are failing, and they are paying heavy cost for these operations. They have massive casualties. Let's continue. And by the way, RIA Novosti also reporting about strike on Donetsk city by Zelensky's regime with cluster munition. This did happen yesterday afternoon, and as a result of these strikes, one of the universities in Donetsk was targeted, and that building, one of the buildings of university caught fire and almost entirely was destroyed. Firefighters up to this morning are trying to extinguish fire. War crime, yet another war crime from Zelensky's regime, but well, unfortunately, I don't believe that even single media outlet in the West will write or say anything about this strike with cluster munitions on the civilian areas of the Donetsk, including university, by the way. Let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, did made a statement about Ukrainian strike on a civilian ship in Kerch Strait. As you know, yesterday Ukrainian forces targeted with the maritime drones tanker, and Maria Zakharova, of course, condemned this war crime, and she did highlight that Ukrainian forces are endangering not just civilian ships, in the Black Sea, and but also they are endangering nature of and the Black Sea and the Azov Sea, because this tanker, if tanker was sunk, then thousands and thousands of tons of oil will be spilled on the vast area of the sea, both seas, by the way, Black Sea and the Azov Sea. It depends on currents, and I believe because it happened in Kerch Strait, and this oil will go just both ways. And well, yet again, unfortunately, probably no Western so-called green activists or activists for nature will say single word about this strike on a tanker, and of course Western media will also say nothing. That's a modern day reality in the West. But these kind of statements from Russian Foreign Ministry have to be done, of course, to inform community worldwide. Let me continue now. And TASS news agency is reporting that government in Crimea did make a statement that decision of Zelensky's regime to call entire Russian Black Sea coast a war zone is a pure indicator that terrorist attacks from Zelensky's regime in Black Sea would not stop, and civilians will targeted, and civilian ships will be targeted, which is true, by the way. As you probably know, Zelensky's regime did declare all the Russian port cities on the Black Sea as a kind of war zone or areas of high war risk, and well, this is done. I mean, this is desperate measures, desperate step from Zelensky and his criminal associates or terrorist associates, because Russia did impose maritime blockade on Ukrainian ports to make sure that no weapons will be delivered to terrorists in Ukraine by sea. Now Ukrainian side is trying to somehow endanger a shipment of goods from Russian ports and into Russian ports. Unfortunately, Western elites did provide Zelensky and his associates with these maritime drones that are capable of striking Russian merchant ships in quite long distances. There were some reports that these particular drones that were used to target, for example, this tanker, was delivered from France to Zelensky's regime. I'm not sure about it. I cannot confirm this information, but I will share with you what I did read on some big Russian language channels on Telegram. But it not really matters that much. It was France that delivered these drones, UK or US. Western elites, I mean, collective West, is acting in absolutely mad way, absolutely irresponsibly, and unfortunately this will continue until Russia will force these so-called Western elites to stop this crazy behavior. Because we all know that Western elites, so-called elites, once again, don't really understand the language of dialogue. They only understand language of force. That's it. Let me continue. And RIA Novosti is reporting that this is quite interesting. RIA Novosti is reporting that according to documents that they receive from unnamed sources, and this information is from embassy of Denmark, as I understand, in Kiev, from documents of Denmark's embassy in Kiev, by the way. So according to these documents, British and Danish militaries did train Ukrainian soldiers on a military basis of Nazi Azov regiment, which is once again highlights that Western elites, what we all know for a long time, that Western elites have no morale, have no principles. They are disgrace for humanity. These so-called Western elites are just disgrace for humanity. That's all it is, really. Because it's impossible that British officials or British Ministry of Defense or Danish Ministry of Defense have no idea what kind of individuals are represented by Azov regiment. They are Nazis and fascists. And British and Danish militaries were presented on basis of this Azov regiment, and they were training some basically Nazis. They were participating in training of Nazis. And by the way, probably we all did notice it, that these so-called Western elites are constantly trying to use radicals, extremists all around the world as the puppets, as the tools. And when it comes to Christian countries, they are usually using extreme leftists and extreme right-wingers. And when it comes to Muslim countries, they are using extreme religious religious extremists. When it comes to Muslim countries, they are using religious extremists, and when it comes to Christian countries, because it's not that possible to use religious extremists, because they are not that many, they are using far left or far right extremists, and that's a pattern, isn't it? That's a strategy that Western elites are using all around the world. Extremists are the main tools to destabilize countries all around the world, and those extremists have been used as a cannon fodder, basically, as a manpower for their geopolitical goals. Let me continue. Once again, this information is a total disgrace for Western elites and for governments of UK and Denmark. But yet again, I don't think any Western media outlet will write or say even single word about it. I don't think so. RIA Novosti is also reporting that according to Russian Defense Ministry, since the beginning of the so-called Ukrainian counteroffensive, Ukrainian armed forces lost more than 43,000 soldiers. Quite a big number, catastrophic number, basically, for Ukrainian society, for Ukraine. But I don't think Zelensky's regime is, that worrying about casualties. After all, they can kidnap on the streets of Ukrainian cities another 50 or 100,000 men and forcefully send them to the front line. But by the way, this information is important because according to many estimations, including mine, before beginning of this so-called counteroffensive, Zelensky's regime had about 70 to 80,000 military personnel in strategic reserve. And if they already lost 43,000, more than 43,000, then well, I guess my assumption was correct when I was saying that since the beginning of this counteroffensive, Zelensky's regime lost almost half of its strategic reserve. It's factual, I guess. At least if we will take in account statements from Russian Defense Ministry. Let's continue. And RIA Novosti is also reporting that experts from IAEA once again did inspect Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, including roofs of the nuclear cores, and they did not find any mines or any explosive materials there. which is once again confirming that all those statements from Zelensky's regime and the Western masters and Western media that Russia did mine the nuclear blocks, nuclear reactors, and entire power plant, including roofs of the nuclear reactors. I mean, it's false. It's complete false. And yet again, by the way, just check it. I don't think many Western media outlets will mention this statement, official statement from IAEA, by the way, which is based on Rafael Grossi, head of IAEA. Let's continue. TASS news agency did report that according to statement from Erdogan, Putin will visit Turkey in August. This is not a new information, but this time Erdogan himself did made such a statement. And from Russian side there is no announcement yet when exactly, in which date Putin will visit Turkey, but such a meeting will probably take place. And there are many topics that have to be discussed between Russia and Turkey, and let's wait and see. I don't think Moscow is very happy with the recent steps from Erdogan, and if Putin would not receive some guarantees from Erdogan that he will act as neutral, even though he is not neutral, by the way, and the Turkish companies are delivering military equipment to Zelensky's regime. And if it was up to me, I will cut all the ties with Turkey for now. I mean, all the ties. And with every country, absolutely every country that supplies weapons with to Zelensky's regime. But Putin has a different approach. And let's see what will come out from that meeting. But can Erdogan be trusted? No, of course not. Once he released those Nazi terrorists, leaders of this Nazi Azov regiment, from that moment Erdogan cannot be trusted even for a second. Simple as that. But yet again, it's interesting what will come out from that meeting between Putin and Erdogan. RIA Novosti is reporting that Polish Minister of Internal Affairs did make a statement that Wagnerites did try to cross border with Poland from Belarus, to enter Poland from Belarus, which is false, of course. This is complete false information, but it's important because we have more and more indicators now to say that Warsaw is definitely planning some false flag operations, pretext to not just deploy additional forces in direction of Kaliningrad region or Belarus border or Ukraine's border, but also to conduct itself much more aggressively towards Kaliningrad, Belarus, and to prepare ground for invasion of western regions of Ukraine. That's what this is all about, really, I believe, because as I said many times before, I'm 100% sure that after this conflict will end, western regions of Ukraine will be controlled by NATO member states, including Poland, of course. The rest of the Ukraine, my belief is that will be controlled by Russia, including Kiev and the central regions of Ukraine around Kiev. But yet again, I have to mention that they are probably slight chance, let's say 1%, that Kiev and surrounding regions will remain as a landlocked state under the name of Ukraine. But yet again, it's only slight chance of that, because I believe Western Ukraine will become under control of These NATO member states that are bordering Ukraine, and the rest of the Ukraine will be controlled, will become under full control of Russia. But yet again, we are seeing more and more indicators that Poland is getting ready. Poland is getting ready to become more active, and not just Poland, by the way. We had reports that Baltic states are also deploying their forces. Latvia, for example, deploying their forces in the direction of Belarus border. So, and by the way, just look at this on the map. As you can see, Belarus is bordering with Lithuania and Latvia, and both these countries are sending troops in the direction of Belarus border, and I believe also in the direction of Kaliningrad region. And well, it will be interesting, because it's very well maybe that once Poland will enter Western Ukraine, or once Poland will conduct some provocations in the direction of Belarus, Wagnerites will probably try to establish control over this Soval corridor that are connecting Belarus with Kaliningrad region. Soval corridor, which is now is part of Poland. And to be honest, I would not be surprised if there are even some negotiations between Moscow and Warsaw that you know, about disintegration of Ukraine, and Moscow may demand Soval control over the Soval corridor. Of course, no one will ever tell us about it if such negotiations are taking place, but in politics and geopolitics, anything is possible, and maybe Moscow is saying to Warsaw that, you know what, you can take Western Ukraine, but we need a Soval corridor. And because sides cannot exchange territories like that, probably there will be some military actions taken, and military actions that will be negotiated on the top level. Unfortunately, time to time, I mean, this kind of stuff do happens when political decisions have been made on the top level, and then to implement these decisions on the ground, even military actions are taken, and more destruction is done. That's how it was many times in human history, and I don't think it will change anytime soon. So, by the way, I would not be surprised if there is some kind of negotiations between Moscow and Warsaw, that in exchange of Soval corridor, which may be taken by Wagnerites when time is right, Moscow will allow or would not be against Polish invasion of western regions of Ukraine. Let's wait and see. By the way, let's wait and see. As I said, we are living in very crazy times, very strange times, and anything is possible. Let's continue. And RIA Novosti is reporting that according to this media outlet, Welt, it's a German media outlet, I guess. According to Welt, Germany is slowing down its military assistance to Zelensky's regime. And despite promises, Berlin is not in hurry to provide Zelensky's regime, for example, with Leopard 1 tanks, 110 Leopard 1 tanks that was promised, or 20 armored personnel carrier, Marder armored personnel carrier that was also promised, or same goes for IRIS-T air defense systems that was promised, but 4 IRIS-T air defense systems, additional systems that was promised, in addition that those ones that was already delivered. But for now, these weapons still in Germany, and this media outlet, man, Welt, he's not happy about it, and writing that this slow down of military deliveries from Germany is no good for Germany and Germany's reputation. So I mean, we are seeing now that even media outlets, so-called media outlets, are demanding further involvement of their countries in this conflict in Ukraine, and are basically openly demanding more weapons to be sent to Zelensky's regime, which is I mean, which is crazy, by the way, which is crazy. But yet again, that's why I'm saying, though, it's very, very strange times that we are living. And by the way, also we have information, TASS news agency is reporting that members of Scholz's party, and Scholz is the Chancellor of Germany, of course, members of his party now are demanding from German leadership these Taurus long-range missiles, cruise missiles that Germany produces, to be sent to Zelensky's regime. And by the way, a couple of weeks ago, Scholz did made statement that they would not send Taurus missiles to Zelensky's regime. But yet again, it will only take one call from US Embassy, not even from Washington, from US Embassy in Germany, and the very same Scholz will come out and say that he is very sorry. He's apologizing before Biden and his dog, and he has changed his mind, and he will send now Taurus missiles to Zelensky's regime. Because who the hell is Scholz, man? Just nobody. Clown that is working on the orders of true rulers of the Western world. And let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that head of UN did made a statement, Antonio Gutierrez, that world is in the shadow of nuclear war, and he says this in connection with the 78th anniversary of nuclear strikes on Hiroshima, nuclear strike on Hiroshima. That was conducted by US, by the way. And he said that some countries are willing or talking about, or some countries threatening to use nuclear weapons. And I'm wondering, who is he talking about? I mean, who this stupid animal is talking about? I mean, whom? Is Russia threatening? Of course he means Russia. But did Russian officials, did Putin ever threaten to use nuclear weapons? Russian officials always were saying that if they are forced to use nukes, they will use it because they are obligated to do so by the military doctrine of Russian Federation and by constitution. They have to protect Russia. But did Putin or any other high-ranking Russian official threaten to use nuclear weapons for any other case other than protecting Russia? No. So, and one more reason to just laugh at UN. That organization is a total failure, I believe, and this person probably, I mean, most disgraceful head of UN that I can remember, and I do remember quite a few. You know, totally immoral, degraded, marginal that has no true principles and values. And by the way, funny enough, there were some reports that Japanese politicians, during their speeches about this bombing of Hiroshima, never even single time mentioned US, country that did strike, did use nukes against Japan. They were talking about Russia. Just imagine level of Russophobia among these so-called elites of Japan, that even in this day, when Japan was struck with nukes by US, they are talking about Russia, and not even single time did mention US, which is wow. Washington did a great job, by the way, to make from Japanese elites little puppets. They are so scared of Washington, man. They are so damn scared of Washington. Unbelievable, man. Total disgrace. That's what Japanese elites are, man. But anyway, let's continue. And by the way, probably you are informed that Imran Khan, Pakistan, the current government of Pakistan is continuing this political pressure on Imran Khan, former Prime Minister of Pakistan, and he was sentenced to 3 years in the jail. And by the way, well, we did see significant destabilization in Pakistan when current government of that country did try to isolate Imran Khan just recently, and I guess very similar developments may take place now if current government of Pakistan will try to neutralize Imran Khan by putting him in jail. But yet again, as I said quite a few times before, we are witnessing geopolitical clash of US and China on Pakistani soil. And well, current government of Pakistan, as I understand, mainly controlled by US. And they want to neutralize all the forces that were willing to build up strategic relationships with China. And Imran Khan was one of those leaders that was willing to build up these strategic relationships with China. And US is not happy with this person, and they are trying to take him down. Entire this story is political. It's nothing to do with the wrongdoings of Imran Khan. It's pure political prosecution. Like it happening in US, by the way, when these neoliberals and neocons are trying to prosecute or take down Trump. It's pure political prosecution that has nothing to do with the judiciary or any wrongdoings, really. That's how I understand it anyway. Let me continue. And by the way, as you know, these so-called peace talks have begun in Saudi Arabia, in which some 30 countries are participating, but Russia was not invited. So what is the point of all this gathering? It's not that clear, really, but maybe Saudi Arabia will use this opportunity to somehow persuade Kyiv regime to start peace talks with Russia on Moscow's terms. Who knows? It's possible, because I find it hard to believe that Riyadh wants to destroy quite good relationships with Moscow. So I don't think royal family in Saudi Arabia will act on behalf of Western elites. I don't think so. Even if they did demanded this kind of gathering to take place in Saudi Arabia, and if royal family agreed, yes, they agreed, but they will probably use this opportunity to pressure Kyiv regime to start negotiations with Moscow before it's not too late. But by the way, you know my take on Ukrainian story. I think it's too late now, and it's been too late for quite a long time, and that conflict will end with the full-scale disintegration of Ukraine, and they will be, I will give 99% that there will be no more Ukraine as a state on political map after this conflict will end. But anyway, I may be mistaken, and I do applaud any attempts from anyone side to bring peace in Ukraine, to somehow help this conflict to end. Let's continue now. A few more topics about news and political commentary. It's quite a long video anyway. So RIA Novosti is reporting that according to head of Russian Ministry of Economical Development, Maxim Reshetnikov, Russian economy will grow this year at least 2%, GDP of Russia. It will grow at least 2%, which is quite an achievement if you take into account all that sanctions and pressure from so-called Western elites. By the way, RT is reporting that British banks are about to ban racist term black market. I want to share this information just to notice that why just to say that why it's taking this route that everything in the Western states, that everything have to be somehow related with the races and racism. I mean, what is wrong with the Western elites, really? And not just political elites, but in this case, financial elites. I mean, why everything has to be related with races? I mean, why? I don't understand. It's truly, I don't know. It's probably some unique phenomenon that is unique for a modern Western states, because I mean, whatever the topic, it's has to be race. I mean, race involved in one way or another. Why, for God's sake? Maybe we should not use word black anymore, or white anymore, or what is going on, really? It's too stupid, really. I mean, that's my take on it. Thanks God we don't have some racist problem here in former Soviet Union. Then you may find some racist idiots all around the world, but thanks God there is no racial confrontations and some turmoil in Russia and former Soviet Union. That's why maybe for us it's difficult to understand why in the West everything has to be related to race. I mean, for what? But anyway, let me continue. And for outsiders, by the way, it just looks strange. It looks like, you know, it's some internal insecurity in the Western society, or even elites, financial, business, political, and so on, when they are constantly trying to, I don't know, relate everything to race, and constantly trying to apologize for everything. And they are, of course, not honest, man. If they were honest, okay. But I don't believe those so-called elites ever can be honest about any topic. So if they were racists, they probably will be racists, even if they will blame in racism just everybody else. And let's say all the royal families in Europe. I mean, whoever gonna believe that those ones are not racists? I mean, but anyway, it's, you know, as I said, thanks God we don't have such a interracial, some confrontation in former Soviet Union republics. Although you can definitely find some crazy idiots that are acting like racists, even though I believe those people are so uneducated they don't even understand what is race. I mean, you know, but Stupid people are everywhere, really. So let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that Brent oil did reach $86 for a barrel, which is good. As you know, there are some different types of oil, and Brent is one of them. And Russian oil, for example, price for Russian oil depends on price of Brent. And when price on Brent is rising, then price on Russian oil is also rising. So it's all good for Russian economy if oil prices are a little bit higher. And this is, by the way, RT's report about decision from Moscow to cut its oil export for 300,000 barrels per day. As you know, during the previous months, Russia was cutting oil for 500,000 barrels per day, but now Russia will continue these oil cuts to help stabilize oil market, and this time Russia will cut 300,000 barrels per day, which is not that much, but not too small amount. It's not just Russia that cutting oil exports, it's also Saudi Arabia, many other oil producing countries, and the results are seeing. Oil prices are stabilized and even increasing little by little. So this is it for now. Hopefully you will find this update interesting, and if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. And well, if you think this channel is interesting, deserves to exist, and are useful, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box. This is it for now. Once again, I wish you a great day, great weekend, and take care.